got no fears or worries at all right there. Just the smell of salt water that's in the air. And the sunrise. She's walking on water. She's walking on water. Imagine waking up not knowing if today is your last one. Tell me what would you say if you had some? Somebody tell you that you're young but you're dying, which is weird cause you feel so alive. And she has a dream to be queen of the ocean. Mad emotion, showing her devotion. On her surfboard, fully in motion. Hoping for a miracle when the eyes first open. She wakes up and picks up a surfboard. Heads out from the seashore. From the water where she lives. She's got no fears or worries at all right there. Just the smell of salt water that's in the air. And the sunrise. She's walking on water. She's walking on water. Face up, toes in the sand. Surfer girl gave up, trying to understand. But soon get to living on the side and die. She's tired of goodbyes cause they make her cry. Looking in the sky, blue as her eyes, watching the rising of the sun. Well, how time flies when you're outside and you're in love and you're having fun. Remember the early days when she was laying down on the sand with the fam, and she had a plan, fam, to wake up after daylight. Watch your eyes like the sun on the run from the night. Feels so alive when she wakes up and takes up a surfboard. Heads out from the seashore. From the water where she lives. She's got no fears or worries at all right there. Just the smell of salt water that's in the air. And the sunrise. From the water where she lives. From the water where she lives. From the water where she lives.
All right, happy Thursday night, everybody. I am Wes Siler here for Preserve Navarre Live, and I am joined by my good friend Chuck Pohlmann. How are you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing well tonight.
You got the whole Sean Connery look going on. I love this,
what
man.
Can I say?
Like, I feel like, yeah, you're going on a mission at any point. Looks like we've got 3 or 4 folks that have joined already. Give me a comment. Let me know if you can hear us. Let me know if the sound is great. Let me know if the picture's coming in good for you guys. But I am so excited for the show. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Chuck.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me tonight. I really do.
Yeah.
We got a lot of good information to cover tonight, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it is going to be a show that is chock full of great information. Sure. This show is live, so if you've got any comments, you've got any thoughts, just go ahead and write them. We'll see them towards the end of the show. I'll bring them up, but I can see them coming up on the screen, so that's always the most fun part of it. But we've got a lot of great stuff to get into. While we're waiting on that, though, we are going to go into some of the news, which is going to be fun. So we're going to get into a couple of the stories. Today, I have to tell you, man, when I got into my car, I could not believe how cold it was. Like, I think we experienced the entire 4 seasons today because, like, when I got up, I'm like, this is true winter. I think I saw ice, like, on the front of my car.
Frost, maybe.
Yeah, and then by the afternoon, I was like, okay, now it's more like summer, right? Like, we kind of went through spring, and I think we're coming full circle. Now it's cold again.
Wait until February.
Oh, I know. We're not out of it yet. All right, so it looks like Nancy says sound is good. That's great. So welcome to the show. We're going to go into a whole lot of stuff. We're going to be talking tonight about Navarre as Florida's best kept secret. That's going to be a lot of fun, is to get into some of Navarre's history and also what we can do to save it, right?
Sure,
to keep it that way and maybe to bring it back in a couple of different avenues. We were going to talk about how that can happen. Before I do that, though, I want to get into some of the news. So I have a lot of friends who were out of town. They weren't in Navarre for the holidays. We've done that in the past a few years ago. We go see relatives and family and stuff. But this year we stayed home, and I'm glad we did, because that is one happy man there and a whole lot of happy people following him. You want to tell folks about what this was?
Sure. This is my second year participating in the plunge, and it's the Pirates of the Panhandle.
Yeah.
Jersey Foster Jersey Jerry, everybody knows him by, is organizing it. He does an excellent job.
That was fun. Yeah.
There actually was 3 plunges in Navarre, and but Jersey's is the original plunge, and it's the Pirates of the Panhandle, and 100% of all the money that is collected by the Pirates, they give it back to the nonprofit groups here in Navarre in our community. Right. So we have a very good legacy. I am a member of the Pirates of the Panhandle, and it's a great organization.
Yeah.
I know you are too.
Yep.
And so we need to stay behind the Pirates and make sure that this is the one thing that they look forward to doing every year is this plunge.
It's like their biggest thing. Absolutely. Yeah. So I had Jersey on the show a couple weeks ago before the plunge to talk about it and let people know. So we've got some videos on that if you're interested. But it was so much fun. Like, just a great group of folks, very laid back. We walked down to the beach. That's him leading the way. And then everybody jumped into the cold water. And I was just thinking, this is the most gorgeous day possible. I mean, this was the water was cold, but the weather was great. So it was a lot of fun. And like you said, I think they broke their 200,000.
I hope they did. I haven't heard about the final numbers yet, but hopefully they have broke the record.
Yeah.
That's what they're shooting for.
Yeah, and I got to know their charities during this. So one of them I knew a little bit already, the Turtle Center, Navarre Beach Sea Turtle Center. So they were there. They had all of their stuff, which I've seen before. But then there was a veterans one as well, where they take people out and they surf. Called the Surf Brigade. Yeah. Some great folks there. And what they do is they take people who may be struggling, veterans with PTSD, and they take them out, they teach them to surf. Right. It's kind of this therapeutic thing.
That's good.
As one myself, I know, like, I love to go, do military things. Surfing's never been part of it, but I mean, that sounds like a great time. Just go out there, learn to surf, hang out with some folks that have done the mission like you. And so when I found out that's one of the charities they were donating, I was like, give me a hat. I love this. Like, let me donate some more. So great time, great event.
I enjoyed it.
And I love seeing Jersey happy. They're like having a ton of fun. That's a man in his element, if I've ever seen one.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, some other news. I got a couple other stories. The big one is you've got the water system election that is going to be in a couple weeks. That's on the
January 16th.
That's right, that Tuesday. I'm one of the candidates, but there's several others. And I think the big issue from what I'm seeing in the newspapers and everything else is the rate increase that Holly Navarre Water System is considering. Now, a lot of people aren't clear on this. They voted in the last meeting. I was there. I know Carmen was there. A lot of people watched live. They voted to have it in place for a few weeks, but the formal vote is on the 16th.
Right.
So there's still time to let the board know, let the system know how you feel about this, and whether you think it's a good idea.
Well, in my opinion, Wes, I'll just tell you like it is. I live here in Navarre. I love Navarre. The people in this community, they do not want another rate increase. Rate increases are you got to have them every once in a while, but we had one last year. We got one this year. In 2016, we had a 17.5% increase because they found out that the health and welfare that they were paying their employees was a platinum, policy, and they were behind in paying it or whatever, and they had to catch up. But it seems to me they ought to go to the budget. They're an $88 million corporation. Go to the budget, find out where they can cut in the budget, and pay their bills that way. If you have to, the last resort is to have a rate increase. Right. What's going to happen next year? 4.5% again?
Yeah, that's exactly where I stand as well as a candidate. Is that should be your last resort, right?
Last resort.
You want to use alternative ways to fund things. You want to use grants, especially. Yeah. Right. You look for cost-cutting measures. What else can we do? It should not be a last resort, and that was my message to the board was, listen, if I'm on this board, then I'm going to be pushing hard to find other ways to fund this. I get it. We've got big projects. We're going to talk about some tonight.
Sure.
They got big projects coming up, but it shouldn't be just a go-to, hey, we're just going to raise rates every year. And that was kind of my frustration was I could understand if you had to do this once. What are you going to do next year and the year after that?
Right.
And I got nothing back giving me any confidence that there was any other planning going on. Maybe there is. I hope there is. I can guarantee you if I'm on the board, that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah.
Well, what they need to do is look at grants, and I know that grants take 8-9 months to come in, but there's people here in this community that know how to write grants.
Oh, 100%. Carmen being one.
Carmen Reynolds is one of them, and I think she would lend a helping hand to get the board some money.
The challenge with grants is sometimes it takes months, if not years, to get them. So it's this process of filling out applications and actually specifying what projects you're going to use it for. And that's what I was kind of hitting them on is, okay, if you had to do this rate increase, but then you have a whole lot of grants coming, that's one thing. But if this is just business as usual, then what have we been doing the past? Why did we do an audit? Why did we get Dallas PV out? Yeah. The whole point was to clean up the system. And so
the way I look at it, if you never start, you're never going to get any money from a grant.
I just wanted to show folks that this is on the front page of Navarre Press. So
that's correct.
If you haven't seen that online or in person, I get a copy every week. That's them talking about it, absolutely. And I think the entire team there at Navarre Press lays out a pretty good argument of why folks should be against this and what we can do differently to make sure our money's used responsibly.
Sandy Kemp did an excellent job in reporting it, and she explained it fully, so please go to it and read it.
Yep. So January 16th, coming up in a couple weeks, you're going to have your opportunity to vote, and I think this rate increase is going to be at the forefront of everybody's mind when they do it. Another thing that's at the forefront of people's minds, especially my friends in the North End, people in Milton, Pace, all those places, is the concept or proposed bill that is being put forward to consolidate the different water systems that are up there into one big entity. So we have several entities down here, but they're all together.
Is that Senator Broxton's initiative?
It is. So he held more or less a town hall over in Milton the other night, and Andrade was there, Rudman was there, so the two state reps, and they said, okay, this is our plan to be able to put all the little mini water systems together into one. And the kind of the drama with this, or the frustration is, first of all the different water systems don't want that to happen. They've made that very clear. We don't want to be under one centralized authority. And then I'm not sure the people are sold on it either. I'm not sure the constituents want it either. Right? So there's some problems there. And if you look at our water system in the South End, what we've had to deal with an international criminal running it, paying himself hundreds of thousands of dollars, doing contracts under the table, right?
Giving himself raises, not even approved by the board.
Exactly. And then the forensic audit we've done, which revealed even more corruption. It was worse than we thought. This told us they had no financial accounting of any kind, that they were building those processes from scratch because they didn't have them. And that's what the new CEO has been working on. We've gone through all of that stuff, and clearly we've still got work to do with the raise increase.
Sure.
People see that, they pay attention, they're like, why would I want this in the North End? So I understand where they're coming from. I would tell folks, if you're going to have any system, it's got to be transparent. It's got to have transparency. Sure. It is difficult to be transparent because you get negative feedback. You get people fighting you, but they have to do it because the people are owed that. Go ahead.
Let me say something positive real quick about the water board right now. The way it is today and what it was 5 years ago, they're trying to become more transparent, and they're trying to do the right thing. They did a forensic audit. They found out stuff. They're probably very embarrassed about it, but they're trying to correct things.
That's right.
The new CEO is trying to correct it, but there's going to be hills and valleys to go through, but you just make it consistent and make it transparent.
Yeah, I know that's a good point. And why it's so difficult to be transparent is because the water system is a mix. Is it private? Is it public? Well, it's a nonprofit, but then it's got for-profit components.
Sure.
And then it has a government monopoly. They've got a lifetime lease, 99-year lease to be the only ones providing service where they provide service in Navarre and Holly. Right? So they've got the power of government from monopoly, but then they're also private. So like a private company, they can kind of shield some of that stuff. They don't have to be public, right? Like government entities. But then try to compete with them. Good luck. See how that goes. So it's kind of this mixed, weird place, right?
Be transparent with this 4.5% increase.
If you're going to have a lease and you're going to use the power of government, you need to be accountable to the taxpayers who gave it to you, right? And that's what I've been saying the whole time. So they got some challenges there. We'll keep our eye on that, but that's a big story. So that's what I got going on. Let me know your thoughts on that. Looks like we got a few comments already. But let's talk about you, Chuck, because I love to do this every single show. Is I love to focus on the people of Navarre, to learn more about you and what brought you here and what you love. So let's start with that question of, when did you find yourself in Navarre first?
Well, I'll just start off by saying I'm not a special person or anything. I'm just I'm a guy in the community with my lovely wife, Heather. And
You're not a secret agent. You're not the actual
I'm not Sean Connery. No.
Got it.
But I'll just say this. I was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
And the Pohlmann family, and a lot of people don't know this, go back the roots in Navarre in the 1920s.
Yeah.
My grandfather, which was my father's father, bought a piece of property on Joybrook Road at the end of Joybrook Road. And Joybrook Road, by the way, is one of the oldest roads in the county.
Yeah.
Okay, and he bought that piece of property. It was 145 feet wide, 265 foot deep.
Yeah.
On the water,
Yeah.
on the highest point in Navarre. They have a monument, I don't know what you call it, but it's a monument with a U.S. surveyor, the thing on it, and it says the highest point in this area, and it's still there, and it will not be removed. It's got to stay there forever. And he bought it for $800.
I was going to ask how much.
And
wild.
it took him almost 5 years to pay it off.
Yeah.
Okay. But he built a little house, a little beach house.
Yeah.
Because he lived in Pensacola in East Hill. He built a little beach house, and my father and him would go down and build on that beach house, concrete block house, square. Okay. No air condition, no heating system, just something to go down there in the summer. And so I remember going down there when I was like 5 years old and watching my dad, and I'd bring a brick or a tool or a screwdriver or what to him, and helping my grandfather build on it, and he and my father would build on it. So that's how I first came to Navarre. Yeah. But speeding up a little bit, and I know I'm taking a little bit more time, but I'll be quick. I became of age, started working, still lived in East Hill. Our vacation was down here in Navarre. Yeah. I don't think we went on one vacation. We went to Silver Springs, and we rode in a Volkswagen all the way down there and back. And but I remember coming to Navarre with my dad all the time. Yeah. And I remember going to the beach house, and Dad said, "This is the most beautiful place in the world." Yeah. And he wasn't talking about his beach house. He's talking about Navarre. Right. And back in those days, there might have been maybe 3,000 people in Navarre. Yeah. Maybe. And in the county, maybe 15,000. I mean, it was it was sparsely. I mean, it wasn't a lot of people here.
I relate to that so much because I remember being a kid, and my parents would take us down into this area. It was typically Panama City. Right? And at the time, we thought we were cool because we found Destin. And it wasn't, back then you didn't have GPSs and all that stuff. So I'm dating myself too a little bit.
No cell phones, nothing.
We printed out MapQuest. That's what we had. And you'd look on the map, and Destin wasn't on the map, right? It depends on what map you had, right? If you bought one from the gas station, and then we'd find Destin, we'd say, "Hey, Mom, we want to go to this place called Destin," and so we go check that out, and it was barely anything there. Right. But Navarre, forget about it. Like it truly was a secret. Like
Wes, I'll tell you this: that there was plenty of times we'd come down here in the summer. My dad had a 14-foot plywood boat with a 35 Johnson on it. He loaded my mom, myself, himself, and my brother and my sister. Our youngest brother wasn't even born yet. And I'm 10 years older than he is. So he was born in 58, and I was born in 48. Yeah. But we would get in that boat from Joybrook, the beach house, and motor over to across the sound. Yeah. Park the boat with the keys still in it, get our coolers, and walk all the way across the sand dunes. There was no road out there. Right. Sit down on the beach, and Dad would look to the east, and then he'd look to the west, and he'd open up a Falstaff, and he said, "This is the best place in heaven. Yeah. There's nobody here. There was nobody on the beach. Yeah. There's no buildings on the beach." Right. That was the old Navarre. Yeah. Of course, you can't stop change, and you can't stop people coming and things of that nature. So and then progress started coming down in this area because it got out. The word got out, and I think the word is really out now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about that tonight. So let's talk about this picture, because this is probably one of my favorite pictures of you. Now, what you haven't talked about is in that process of growing up, you made what some would consider a mistake, and became an Auburn fan. And why would an Auburn fan accept anything from a person wearing those colors and that logo?
Not only do I respect you, but I also respect Bart Pohlmann. Yeah. He's a personal friend of mine. Go back early days, the Pohlmans and the Pullums, they were very instrumental in this area, like Ira May Hewitt, like E.H. Pullum, like Captain Bob Sly. Yeah. Okay. Some of these people all those people are not here anymore. Yeah. But the Pullums and the Pohlmans go back a long ways. In fact, they always thought that the Pullums and the Pohlmans were so close related that we were all kin. Yeah. But we're not. But very close knit family of the Pullmans.
Yeah.
And back in 2004, I had just retired from 35 years of UPS management, coming back home, and I wanted to settle back here. And I'm a golfer. I wanted to be on the golf course, so we went and got back here in 1996, matter of fact. And then in 2004, Bart and about 10 business people here in Navarre came to me and Heather and asked us to meet them out there at Cocodries.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he says, I want to know if you'll accept the position of running the wet side of the wet-dry campaign.
Yeah.
And
which is what exactly?
Which is, in other words, alcohol in the county.
Because it was dry at the time.
Dry for 72 years. 72 years.
You couldn't sell
now,
anything.
I'd been away working with UPS in many states, and wasn't really in tune with being dry county.
So you can't serve margaritas.
I wasn't in tune to being dry
whiskey
county.
sours and
so
wine,
asked,
the whole thing.
I asked Bart one question. I said, has it ever been tried before? And he said, yes, 6 times.
Yeah.
And I went, 6 times? And he said, my father ran the last one,
Yeah.
Bill, and he lost by 6 votes. And I looked at him, I said, you got to be kidding me. But we're a dry county.
Yeah.
We need to get into the 21st century.
Sure.
So anyway, next day I told him I'd do it. It was a very, very fast campaign. About 9 months later, we had raised about $155,000. It wasn't me that got it. I was the chairman, but I just ran it. There was 15 valuable people that worked on that committee along with me, and those people put their hard-earned money, and they put their feelings out there. They went and talked to people. They wanted to have a change, and the demographics were changed at that time, and we won by 8,600 votes.
And so the reason why you can go to a restaurant in Navarre and have a glass of wine is because of this guy and his team. That's what I heard.
Just say the team.
Okay, got it.
Don't put it all on my shoulders.
Well, I think Bart and I agree that you had at least something to do with that, and I think that's what that plaque is.
Bart
right
is so nice to give me this plaque.
That's great,
it's a front page of the Navarre Press with Bart and I on it.
That's awesome.
And the opposition said, well, I guess we'll go have a drink.
Yeah.
They were defeated.
Well, and that was my first talks with you. So when I met you a few years ago, that was one of the first things you talked about is your dedication, your commitment, and how you're willing to try something.
Sure.
Even if in the past, hey, let's pick it up, let's figure it out. And you care deeply about this community and the issues surrounding it.
Well, what made me upset at the time was that the people to the east and the people to the west, they were wet counties.
Right.
So all the tax money, the people here in Navarre or in this county, were going east and west and leaving their tax money over there in those counties. So you were supporting those counties, and poor old Santa Rosa County got nothing.
Yeah. So I can't let you go talking about history without talking about the past, right? Because that was the other thing is, when folks introduced me to you, they said, listen, you got to talk to this guy. Chuck knows campaigns. He cares about this area.
Sure.
He knows this area. He'll educate you on stuff. One of our first conversation over at what is now NDD's, it was Broussard's then, was Chuck telling me, hey, let me take 5 minutes of your time and teach you about the past. First, let's talk about this photo, and then we're going to get into it. I know you can't wait. Do you remember what year this photo was taken?
Yes. All these photos were taken by me on my father's boat, and you'll see another one here pretty soon. But there was over 150 boats to show up here in Navarre from the east and all the way down to Mississippi. They would travel the intercoastal waterway, and they got here for the grand opening of the first day of opening the Navarre Pass. 150 boats, and there's some of the boats that I took.
Right there.
Yeah, some of the boats. They're old boats now compared to what they are today, but it was opened in 1965, and it only lasted about 3 months.
Yeah, let me show. I got a map here so people can kind of get an idea.
Sure.
Not really a map; it's an aerial photo, but kind of explain to people
where it is.
What it is.
If you go over to the bridge and you're going south on the Navarre Bridge, it's about 750 yards due east on that land right there. It's where a low spot is. It's still wet from time to time. When we have major hurricanes hit this area, it reopens, and the county comes down and closes it up. It's all political. Pensacola, Escambia County, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I think. They don't want us to have a pass. They have their pass. Right. They don't want us to take tax dollars away from them. So they don't want us to have it. They control us because that land out there is government owned by the U.S. government. They lease it to Escambia County, and Escambia County subleases it to Santa Rosa County. So we don't own that property out there.
Right.
And that's another issue, fee simple title, that we're trying to get with Matt Gates and get that changed.
So for all these reasons, right now, boats can't pass from the
No,
sound
you're 25
into the
miles
Gulf.
east and west from a distance to get into the Gulf.
Right. But when the pass was there, I think this is the photo.
That's the one I took on
because
my
you could
father's.
actually, travel.
It was
from
unbelievable.
The Gulf.
And let me tell you why I thought this was. My dad sat there at the controls, driving a boat, take this camera, son, get up at the top of the bow of the boat and take these pictures. This is something. This is absolutely something. And I did the best I could.
Yeah.
These are probably one of the only few pictures that survived all these years. And I created a website. It's called NavarrePass.com, and it tells the life and the story of Santa Rosa County and that land out there.
Yeah.
And all these pictures are on there for the history, because I want to preserve it. I want to preserve what we did back then, and it still can be done today.
Right. Well, how much cleaner was the water back then?
Great question. Great question. A lot of people don't realize this, but the water clarity in Navarre, before the pass was even cut, was probably minimal. I mean, it was not a lot of runoff from housing and stuff like that. Sure. As we grew in population, our infrastructure did not. The pass was already closed. Right. Okay. The water clarity was unbelievable for the 3 months that it was open. You could actually see the bottom of the channel, the middle of the channel of the sound where you go under the bridge. You could see the channel at the bottom and see the sandy bottom. Today,
you can't do that anymore.
No. And I want to say this: there's two types of bacteria out there, and it's already been documented. Vibroviviniscus is one of them. It's a flesh-eating bacteria. And there's a lot of people that have gotten sick. They've lost limbs. They've died. Yeah. People don't understand that. Yeah. I won't swim in that water, and I won't eat any fish in that water.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah.
And why? Why is it that way? Yeah. Well, when it's closed, there's no circulation. It goes up and down with the moon, and on top of that, the sewer system up there on the beach, it's outdated. And anytime they have an overflow, and they usually have 200,000 to 300,000 gallons overflow a day when it's the height of the season. Yeah. And where do they dump it? Right in the sound.
Right into the sound.
It's affluent water. It's treated, but they say don't drink it. You think I'm going to swim in it? If they say don't drink it, I'm not swimming.
And this is the concept. I think I have a picture. Let me find it here of the rib system. Right. This is what the water system's trying to do to get that wastewater.
And it's a good plan. It's a great plan.
All the way up north. Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Oh yeah.
We've been talking about it for years.
30 years is what I read. Yeah.
But all that overflow going into the sound has hurt the sound so much that it's going to take, once that's implemented, it'll probably take another 30 years for this to clean up.
Right.
So that's another generation. Right. And there's other ways of doing it. Reopen the pass. The pass. Do it right. Bulkhead it. Right. And the reason it closed up because a hurricane hit in 1965, Hurricane Betsy in New Orleans, and it skirted the Gulf Coast, and it was 100-mile-an-hour wind down here. They didn't even know how to bulkhead something. Yeah. They didn't know about the westerly flow of the tide going from east to west, and the sand, building up and building up. They didn't control that. They didn't know how to control it.
Because this has all the components of the discussion we're about to have, because you see some things that Navarre has lost.
Sure.
Right? Like you said, the water quality.
Oh,
being able to see through it, to see the bottom in the sound. But you also see projects that are beginning to be worked on, like the ribs. Some people with some good ideas.
Right.
Starting to get a little bit of traction.
Right.
And some other ideas that could happen, like the pass, that could further help that. Right. So there are these projects to sort of reclaim what was lost, to try to fix some things that were done as Navarre developed so quickly. That's what I love. I love the concept of people saying, hey, we love our community. There's parts of it that we're losing as we're growing. Let's hold on to those while we continue to prosper as a community. Right? That's what it's all about. So I want to get into the best kept secret, because this was how we advertised this show, and it's such an important piece. So if you remember this, let me know in the comments. This sign, I got a copy of them. Yeah, thanks for that. So there's a picture of it right there. I went to one of the gift shops in Navarre, and they actually had this sign, right, like a miniature version of it, of Florida's best kept secret. And I remember when I moved here. So now I'm starting to have the same type of experience of, there were things that were here when I moved here that are now gone, right? There were things that I enjoyed that have since been lost. And that sign, I think they put it in the back end of the park, but it used to be the motto and the main sign of Navarre, right there at 98 and the bridge, right?
And as a community, we should have this back.
Yeah.
This sign with that phrase should be Florida's best kept secret, and that's what it should be.
But it should have meaning, right? Because it's more than a sign. There was something about that motto and that sign that meant something to people. Because that's how I felt. So I want to tell you just a little bit about my story. Is when we moved down here, I said, okay, where are we gonna move? And I knew this area. I visited a dozen or more times with my family.
Right.
My wife didn't know it as well. It was one of her second or third times down here. And I said, well, we could live in Crestview. We could live in Milton. Destin has gotten so overdeveloped and commercial. I don't know. And then I found Navarre, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what Destin used to be 10 years ago. It's amazing. And I was so in love with it because I had found the secret. I hadn't seen any ad or advertising or anything like that. I feel like I had discovered something. I had that same experience that you described with your family of this is beautiful and gorgeous. And that sign was part of it. So it was like my wife was discovering it for the first time, but then even me as someone who had come down here, I was discovering it for the first time. Right? I was like, it's a secret because, and I explained it to my wife, I was like, oh, I know what they're saying. It's a secret because they've watched all this development happen in Pensacola, in Destin, elsewhere in their counties, and they haven't been quite, as developed. And so there's still some of that like early history, some of that natural beauty that's involved. And that's what it meant to me.
Well, and
what about you?
It's the same thing with me. I mean, all we're trying to do is preserve what we've had.
Yes.
And we can get that back.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is because there's a fatalism, and I'll show you some comments from folks that I've seen where they think that not only can the sign not be put back there, that's a pretty easy thing. That could happen. A county commissioner could probably do that. But can we actually rediscover that magic, right, that so many of us felt? And I think it still exists from time to time. I see it. I see it at the Turtle Center. I see it with the Pirate Plunge. I see some of that magic. But what I don't see is this effort with a dedicated purpose to say, hey, let's preserve that piece and let's replenish it, right? So let's get into that, because this is what I want to kind of explain is that word secret is so important, right? For the reasons we just talked about. But like any good secret, you have to work to protect it.
You got to protect it.
Yeah, and I want folks to think about that, is if you've got a really good secret, something that's positive, that's powerful, that's beautiful, what are you going to do with that, right? You're going to hold on to it and protect it. You're not going to blare it out, because then it's not a secret.
Yeah, somebody else may be doing the same thing that you're doing.
I lived this. I was sitting there thinking, how can I relate this, in a way that is simple and easy to understand for me and for anyone else? Where's this feeling at? And this is a picture of my wife, Catherine. It was her birthday on the 2nd, right? And so what I had decided to do with the kids was let's have a surprise party for her, right, at work, because she had to go into work. It was the day after New Year's, so everybody's kind of back in the office. She's like, we'll celebrate, on the weekend. Don't worry about it. I was like, she's done so much. She held the house together while I was deployed. The family's like, I got to do something nice for her birthday. So I let the kids in on the secret. And then I talked to her work staff, and I said, hey, let's plan a surprise party for her in the middle of her work day, right? And so we got it all decked out. It was very difficult, let me tell you, because my kids are not the quietest kids. I love them to death, but my kids are not the quietest kids. They're very social. And she was having a work meeting literally next door. And so I was like, you guys have to be the quietest you've ever been. And we decorated the whole place, and we had like a little disco light and funfetti and the whole thing and a cake. And we worked hard to protect the secret. And then she walked in and she's like, I had no idea. She's like, you nailed it. Like, I was like, really? Are you sure? Because they're loud. But we protected that secret. We took pains and efforts, right, for that, so that it would be for the intended person, right?
All worthwhile.
This is not that, okay? So this is a sign that you see now on that intersection, as well as in other places, that says Navarre Beach, Florida's most relaxing place.
I don't like the sign.
I don't know any locals who really do. The lady at the gift shop who sold me that little sign, I talked to her about it. She didn't know who I was, so she was like, well, this is the old sign, mind you. And I was like, I get it. She's like, because this sign was made for tourists. That's who this is. She's like, Navarre Beach is not the most relaxing place. It's a beautiful place in itself, but if you get to know the locals, it's a feisty place. And I was like, oh, do tell. Like, as if I haven't experienced that. But I talked to one of the commissioners, not from Navarre, who said that Navarre is a land of rebels and renegades. And I believe that. When you study its history, most relaxing place, no, it is not. It is a feisty town of people who are passionate about it, and they're dead set in their beliefs. This doesn't describe us, but it's a good marketing campaign, right?
In the early days, and I'm talking about the 60s and early 70s, when some of those people I mentioned earlier that are no longer here, they did what they wanted to do.
Right.
I mean, they had the county to help them with police protection. You might have seen one police car every 3 or 4 days. That's about it.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to have, and it was a dry county, if they wanted to have a drink at the restaurant of Redbeards,
they did what they wanted.
They did what they wanted, and they call themselves the Navarre Mafia. Okay,
rebels,
rebel. And that, I'm talking about Charlie Pohlmann, my dad. Talking about Bill Pullum, his father, E.H. Pullum, Bob Sly, Captain Bob Sly. All these guys, they just did what they wanted to do.
You could trace it all back to Guy Wyman, the original founder of the place, right? Yeah. It's been that way. So this doesn't describe us, but it's great for tourism, and I think that's where it comes from, right? And when you see what's actually going on, which a lot of people don't, you'll realize why that secret is out. Because that's what the lady told me when I bought that sign at the gift shop. She said it well. Same thing you said. The secret's out. The secret's out. And it is. It is, because this is from Houston, Texas. I don't know if you've been to Houston. I've been there a few times.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yep. So Houston's a big old city. It's spread out, it's landlocked, the whole thing. This is a website from their local news in Houston that thousands of people see. And just read it. It says, immerse yourself in the sights and sounds of Navarre Beach. They talk about it as the most relaxing place. Now you can get a preview while you're sitting in, I guess, traffic in Houston or at your home thinking about the beach. They even have like a live cam where you can see what's going on in Navarre Beach.
So are we paying for that?
The county is paying for this, right? And not just in Houston, Texas, but in multiple cities across the country. We're broadcasting out, hey, come to Navarre. It's the most relaxing place. We want you here. Please travel, come to our community. So this is tourism advertising, which is the opposite of keeping a secret. This reminds me of my son, like laughing very loudly while we're trying to plan my wife's birthday. You're not keeping it a secret because you're not being careful. This is the opposite of careful, right? Because they're trying to fuel the tourism. Wow. That's one part of it. And then you see how much money the tourism generates. This is the bed tax, right? So this spreadsheet is something I can email out if you want a copy of it, but it's available online. These are the numbers in this spreadsheet of how much.
$6.3 million.
So you had COVID in 2020, right? Yeah. So tourism was down a little bit, not too bad. Florida was still free, thank God. But 3.5 million, right? And then it jumps back up to 5.9 million in 2021. And then 2022, 6.3 million. And then I looked at last year, so they're still getting the numbers together.
I
but it's going to be higher.
It'll be over 7 million.
It's going to be close to 7, I think, yeah. So this is clearly a multi-million-dollar industry that's a huge revenue generator. And the more you advertise, the more you're going to get. Right. So there is a machine going that says, forget about best kept secret. Let's broadcast this.
Let's open the borders.
And I actually looked at some of their other documents of how they do this. So they have dedicated marketing campaigns. This is what the people want to hear that will get them to travel, right? And then guess what? It's going to cities all over the region, right? Atlanta, Georgia, Jacksonville, even other places in Florida, Houston, Texas, I mentioned Birmingham, New Orleans, right? So they're doing this regional, if not national campaign to be able to attract folks to come to Navarre. And some of that is good. I get it. You want tourism. I started as a tourist, not someone who saw these ads, but you want some level of tourism. But this is a big enterprise because this is just the bed tax. Think about the commercial dollars that are coming from this. Think about all the other industries that pop up around this piece of it. So not just hotels, but the whole thing, right? So this is a massive generator that the county has control of, and that they generate and continue pumping the dollars
Well,
in to get return on investment.
They've always said, the people up in Milton have always said that Navarre is nothing but a cash cow to the county.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I've understood it for quite some time. But when you really see the numbers, it's mind blowing. It really is.
And it's not just
Yeah.
haphazard. It's not just circumstances, right? That's what some people think is this is just the way life goes, right? This is just how it happens. It was inevitable. No, because we were to whatever degree that's true, we were pumping millions of dollars into these advertising campaigns and everything that we're doing to make this an industry. We are actively promoting our community to try to get more people to come. That is not the same thing as the natural flow of events.
No.
So there's a reason the secret's out. And it's not because, hey, that's just how life happens.
No.
There was actual
Dedicated effort to get the people here.
And there's a reason they pump money into it because, again, it works. So so you do have some level of, hey, people are going to grow and everything. People are going to talk like me. They're going to find it. It's fine, right? But you've also got now a concentrated effort to get the secret out, right? So that's where that's at. And when I see comments like this from Tom he's from Holly, and he said, when will the tax and spend groups just stop talking about people that support incorporation for Navarre? Putting a stop to growth is very easy and can be done without ink. Well, that's the question is, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this multi-year, if not decade-long process that is a massive revenue generator that is feeding tourism, is going to continue to do that, right? You're not going to just stop that on a dime.
No.
And you're not going to, and the people that have moved here, the word has gotten out in so many different ways, right? So stop, when Tom says, oh, we can just stop growth. Yeah, I would love to see them try to stop that program and say, hey, we're not going to invest anything more into getting the word out. It's not going to go well for you, I can tell you.
Early on, when they said this is heaven down here, there's not hardly anybody here, and that was 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
And, look at us now, even though we're still unincorporated. And we want to be able to control our own self-government and be able to say the buck stops here. This is what we allow as far as zoning, or what we allow as far as development.
Stopping growth is not easy.
What Tom is saying, stopping growth is not easy.
Yeah, maybe if you lived in the middle of nowhere, right?
And there was nothing around you.
But Navarre is beautiful. It's gorgeous. And because of the massive advertising campaigns with the county, it ain't easy to stop, right? Because people would have done it. And that's how you get this, right? Because it's not easy to stop, because there's efforts that are doing the opposite. You get growth rates like this over the past 20 years. As you see Navarre growing by 118%, over doubling, right, in its size.
And that number's not going to go down. It's going to keep going.
Right. As opposed to the unincorporated places where you see concentrated efforts. Not easy, mind you, because they're paying more taxes, but they're making efforts to be able to say, let's make this growth at least responsible.
Exactly.
And let's hold our tourism funds locally.
And keep our infrastructure up.
And make sure we know what we're paying for.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right. So
exactly.
There's a big difference there. What this is describing, though, and what we've been talking about, the term for it is gentrification. Okay, it's a long term. It simply is this idea that people move in and culture moves out, right? People come into a community and then it displaces everyone else. And that's the frustration that people have, right? They have frustration against anybody who wasn't just born here, right? Anybody who moved here for any reason, they're upset at because they're being gentrified, meaning you're pricing me out. All of you folks moving here, now house values are going up. Now there's more traffic. Now everything that I enjoyed is lost. And there's a frustration at the community for us losing something precious, right? These memories that you talk about. And that's what I hear. Whether you're pro-ink or anti-ink, people feel this sense, if they've lived here for a while, that they're being gentrified. That's the term for it. It is a thing. And what's interesting to me about it the most is it's not just Navarre. People feel this with immigration in America, right? They feel the sense of like, if we let all these people in with just wide open borders, then we get frustrated because do they understand American values? Okay, do they know where the Stars and Stripes came from? Do they know the Constitution is important to us? Do they believe in freedom and equality before the law? All these values of America, let's make sure the people that are immigrating here get some type of program. They go through the proper checks, right? so that we do that, right? And this is what is so baffling to me, Chuck, about this discussion of incorporation and about culture and everything in Navarre, is the answer to me has always been pretty obvious, is you have to take the efforts, easy or not, to secure your secret, to protect what you love, right? For the same reason that I'm a conservative,
Yeah.
I believe that we need to have responsible legal immigration. I also think
Secure
we need to
border.
have responsible and legal tourism.
Yeah.
We need to have tourism that comes under what we want
Right.
as a society, people that come here and they abide by how we do things. Welcome to rebel territory, Houston. You're coming in now, and you're going to get an actual understanding of what Navarre is,
yeah.
and it's a lot more than just a relaxing place. And so this is just a petition from a nationwide group, right, that is saying, hey, our borders must be secure. That's what I believe about Navarre, man.
Responsible growth that comes down to that.
Yeah, that has
And we don't have that right now, Wes. We don't, because we're unincorporated. So the county sort of like governs us.
Yeah.
And it might have been all right when it was early stages of Navarre, when there was 3,000 people down here. But now we got, close to 46,000 people here.
Yeah.
One commissioner can't control Navarre.
I do not understand, Chuck, and maybe some folks can help me that are watching online. People call me a liberal all the time. They say that our cause is left-leaning, only that, right? They say that only a liberal would like this. And then they go on and they say also, you know what, we need to spend money to build a wall, and we need to plus up our immigration services with more staff. We need to spend a whole lot of taxpayer funds in order to secure our borders. And I'm like, it's the same concept. Like
Same concept.
the same concept of you've got to, because all of a sudden, when they're talking about the nation, it's okay apparently to spend money. It's okay to raise taxes. It's okay for big government programs, immigration services, building a wall, everything else. Suddenly, it's great for the nation to do this. And I'm looking at Navarre. We should do that. We should make the barriers to entry to Navarre steeper, right? So that when people do come here as a tourist, okay, great. I want to make sure that you care about this community that you visit, right?
And come back
and have
keep
the
it
privilege
clean.
to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So it is very much the same argument, and we do this as a nation by saying you make this process from, okay, you're an outsider, and then you are now a resident,
Right.
and now you're a citizen, and you go through sometimes years, right, of processes to get a social security card, to get
Sure.
right a visa, to get citizenship, and it's a big day. I've had friends of mine who have become citizens, and it is a massive party. They are so excited. They're like, I'm a U.S. citizen now. I had friends of mine from Ukraine, okay, that we helped bring over. And it is a massive thing when they get the permission to come to America and be part of our culture because they had to work for it, and they get it. Is a huge thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for a tourist is if I'm going to go to Navarre, right, obviously you're not going to go through a visa process, but you can at least contribute to this community a little more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So securing Navarre borders is a big thing, but that's not the only thing, right? It's because even if you were able to only have responsible, tourism that was at a reasonable rate, not overrunning everything every summer so you can't even get on the beach, even if you were to slow it down, you still got all the people who've come here in the past 20, 30 years,
Sure.
right? You're still going to have all of this. There's a comment that I saw online that was great. This is from Charles. He says, it's too late. Right? Probably a good idea, but it's too late. They've already invaded with and overdeveloped with too many locals. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think he's wrong in that comment. It's never too late. If you don't start the change, you're never going to get the change.
Right.
And there's all the local people, including Charles. Do I know Charles Burke? I don't think I know him, but Charles would agree that I would think that the area, the community, has overdeveloped. And maybe not made the right decision on the developing,
Right.
But the infrastructure is not caught up with all
Not
the
at all.
development.
Not at all.
So it creates problems for
Sure.
us as a community.
Yep, problems with stormwater mitigation,
Yeah,
traffic,
yeah,
everything else.
everything.
But I understand where Charles is coming
Yeah,
from because
yeah.
there's just this sense of fatalism.
But it's never too late.
Sense of
If-
fatalism is just this belief that there's nothing we can do. It's over.
We
It was precious way back when. Love hearing Chuck's stories, but Those days are long gone, pal, and we have nothing. And that's why I love talking to you so much, is because for many reasons, because you look like Sean Connery and you're a great guy, but also because you have this sense of optimism and hope for the future, right? Because you're the person who looked the wet, dry issue in the face and said, I got this.
It's what you believe in. If you believe in something, you're going to take it to the finish line.
Right.
And basically what we believe in the wet, dry issue. I still believe in the Navarre Pass. I think that'll happen one day. Fee simple title, I think, will happen one day for the beach. That's only a 4.5 mile strip of land that we need to get fee simple title. They don't own their own property out there, but yet they're being taxed, double taxed, a lease fee, and also property taxes out there on the beach, and that's unfair. Yeah. But I think that it can still happen. We got to
work together.
We got to work together. That's right.
That's America. America. We were the country that looked the biggest empire in the world and said, no, we're going to fight for our independence.
Why do we have 2 chambers here? Why do we have 3 plunges here this year? Yeah. It's just there's a lot of division here in the area. Sure. And everybody's got an opinion. And I respect everybody.
So let's talk about how you make it happen, because I think that's what folks like Charles want to see is give me a realistic understanding of how you would do this. And that's what America had, right? If you think about the great movements that we've had in the past, there's been some type of plan that people could agree on, that got their heads around it. So we're going to talk for the rest of the show here about redevelopment. Redevelopment is a really important concept, and I'm going to give you some examples. But there's a website here that I'd love for you to check out if you're watching this live or not, but take a look at redevelopment.net. That is the website right below Chuck and I. And there's some pictures here I'm going to walk you through. But redevelopment is this concept, and it's not that foreign if you think about it. If you think about your own home, a lot of people have redeveloped their homes. I did it. We did it. I did this when I first moved here. Okay, back in 2017, we bought a home that had been foreclosed on, and I knew it because the price was very low and everything else. And I bought folks who were trying to flip it. They were trying to do the quick flip and just it's like, hey, I'll give you some profit. Let me take this on because I really want to invest in this home because I want to be here forever. And they said, okay, fine, and we negotiated a deal, and I bought it quick. There were still termites in it. The pool didn't work. There's all these problems with the yard. I got it, right? And I started cleaning it up. Let's get a termite inspection. Let's get the pest control out. Okay, it's going to take $20,000 to get the pool up and running. We'll kind of figure that one out next year. Let's start getting this house up. Now it's worth double. Sure. It's worth double than when I first got it.
And that's a redevelopment. That's a
redevelopment is you go into something that's been messed up, okay? Probably started out great, but it's gotten messed up along the way, and you fix it. You fundamentally fix it. That's the difference between redevelopment and a flip, right? Or just a quick flip, right? Is I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fix some things that they did wrong. I found a light that they had covered up when they were doing the flip for our pool. And we uncovered it and then replaced it and then didn't cover it back up, and now it works. Right now, pool's lit up at night, right? So it's things like that. It's fixing those fundamental flaws in a home or infrastructure or what have you that makes it what it always should have been for where we're at. And that's what you see if you go on that website, is you'll see in our state of Florida, there's national programs and things like that, but just in our state, numerous communities that are doing redevelopment. And then they show the before and afters of, we got money to be able to do this project, and now look at it.
Well, Pensacola has a community redevelopment. They do it over there. CRA.
Yes.
Gulf Breeze has one.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some of these. Okay. These are photos from across the state of folks saying, hey, we've got this, aquarium, and let's add a local feel to it. Boom. Now it's got a mural on there. Hey, we should have had sidewalks on our street, and we didn't.
Now we got sidewalks.
Now we redevelop it. Yep. Now we got sidewalks. They're doing this with 98, if you think about it in those terms, in Gulf Breeze, expanding it because it needs to be wider so that we can cut down on traffic.
If you look at what we have here on Highway 98, and then just go west towards Gulf Breeze, and the scenery starts to change.
And it's going to change more.
The sidewalks, underground utilities. Yeah. I mean, it's going crazy.
Well, and then here's the nuts and bolts, right? If you've got the engineering mind or maybe the legal mind,
right,
you might be more interested in seeing, okay, this is great pictures, Wes, but show me the numbers. Well, here are the numbers. You can see these online as well. As you can see what Gulf Breeze is doing with their CRA is what it's called. It's a redevelopment agency. They have a $5.7 million budget for next year. Okay, so again, we're talking
For the CRA
for the just for the CRA.
in Gulf Breeze.
Yes. Guess how much the city is contributing from its taxes? $424,000, which is less
Well,
than
where's the rest of the
10%.
money coming from?
It's coming from the county. It's coming from federal and state grants. It's coming from other things they've
So they're
built
getting
up over
things.
years.
They're getting things that they want
Yes.
and need, and they're not really having to pay all of it. They pay a little bit of it, but
Right.
they get the grants, they get the county input, and they get their projects done.
Well, and this has been the point, right? Is we talked about the water system and how kind of the easy button is just to raise rates. Okay, Gulf Breeze is not raising their taxes, and yet they're going to have a $5.7 million budget for their CRA.
Sure.
And I've met their folks who do this, and they're very, very sharp individuals who work very hard to say, let's go after this grant and this grant. Oh, there's some state funding for this. Oh, there's Triumph funds for that. And that's how they pull those funds in to get a budget like this, because they're thinking, okay, their taxpayers pay enough already.
Right.
Now let's go find money that they pay already into the system as well as everybody else. And then let's see if we're eligible and pull that in so we're not having to tax them more. This is why I get frustrated when people on the anti-incorporation side constantly think that every single dollar of a city has to be from a property tax. It's just not true. And Gulf Breeze exemplifies this every single day, as well as numerous other cities that we've pointed out.
And do you think they're going to discontinue that program?
No, not at all. They're gonna flex it. They're gonna figure out what
No
the
way.
rules are. They change the rules. Okay, cool. We're gonna abide by those. I mean, they are extremely adept at doing this, both in the CRA and as a city
Yeah.
government, which is how you keep taxes low. Something
I
that
don't
I think you know about, right?
Yeah.
So, to bring back Florida's best kept secret, to start to do some of this redevelopment in Navarre, here's what it looks like, right? Here would be the effects of that, is ensuring responsible tourism, making
Yep.
sure that people come here, their money that they invest stays here, right? It's not going
Correct.
up to Milton for them to decide. It's staying here for the locals to decide. Let's make sure that the people who come here are paying enough for the privilege of getting to participate in our community.
Right.
Let's recover our shared history and identity. We've talked about that. That's another key concept of this, is you go into a lot of different cities and you're going to find museums, visitor centers, and the whole point of those is to teach people.
Should have it here.
Yeah. Well, the whole point of those is they teach people, okay, now you're in St. Augustine. Now you're in Fort Myers. We should have that for Navarre
Now
so
you're
that
in
people
Navarre,
understand.
Florida.
Now you're in Navarre. This is who we are.
Yeah.
Right? And now you want to be part of our community.
And be proud of
And
it.
maybe someday move here. Here's what you need to know. Here's the history that I'm getting from people like you and Jersey and Nancy and everybody else.
You know, a lot of people don't know this, but Jaws 2 in 1978 was filmed
Sure.
here on Navarre Beach
Yeah.
at the Holiday Dome.
Michael Carter's out there,
in
scoring
the
touchdowns.
NFL.
in the
He's a
NFL.
great player.
We've got heroes here. You'd never know.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, some of the new locals that are moving in, they don't know about.
Right. And it's being lost over
Yeah,
time,
yes.
right? It's being lost because the further we get away from Jaws 2, right?
If you look at that film, Jaws 2, I don't know if you've ever seen it
Yeah.
before. I thought Jaws 2 was probably better than Jaws 1, but it's all right. Both of them are good. But on the Holiday Dome, when they filmed the Holiday Dome, I spent many a times in that place. But all those people up there in that little balcony area are all local people. They're all locals. They're all
Right.
sitting there having dinner and everything, and
They're
they're
like-
talking about the Gulf of Mexico
Yes.
and what's out there. And I mean, it was beautiful. It was
It's
gorgeous.
awesome. And the effect of that is you educate locals and tourists alike.
Right,
on Navarre.
right.
It's these stories you're telling.
When you say you want to build a museum, there's one of the sharks
Yeah.
here in Navarre.
From the movie.
From the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
still
I heard
here.
that,
The
yeah.
mechanical shark.
That's the kind
it's
of stuff
still
you want.
here.
And the
It's
stories
in a
you tell
warehouse.
about, the Pullmans and the Pohlmans and everything else, like capturing that history
Yeah.
for my kids to understand.
Sure,
Right? Because
sure.
it's passed down, maybe verbally, maybe a little bit here,
But if they saw it and
But
feel
when
it
you
and
have a
touch it,
$6 million a year tourism industry pumping people in all the time, how many of those folks are getting that, and how many of those people that are moving here otherwise? But you know this is a great shot as we start to move to a close here.
yeah, that
of
was me in front of the
keeping
county
the
commissioners.
taxes low, and that's what a CRA excites me the most, is because if this was some monstrosity that you had to double and triple and everything else your property taxes in order to get this, then okay, and that's how some people react, I think.
Well,
but it's the grants of the CRA that is, to me,
Right.
that's the best part, is you can have redevelopment, you can start to reinvest in Navarre's culture while using money that already exists. And Gulf Breeze has shown that model as well as a dozen other cities or more.
Sure.
And you've made that case before.
Well, I mean, that was in front of the county commissioners, and I was asking for a reduction in the property taxes, and what's the word I want to use?
In the public forum?
Yeah, in the public forum.
That's
but
right.
you know, the last reduction of the taxes was back in 2012, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
And that was last year, if I remember correctly. And they have about $15 million more in taxes than they did the year before.
And what you see from the county, because I've had discussions with them, I know you have, I've asked them directly about CRAs. They're very aware of this process, but the last thing they want to do is set one up for the county. And
they don't want to give
they
one
don't
up
want to set one up for Navarre. And they've made that very, very clear.
We're a
And
cash cow. Cash
that
cow.
is the frustration. And this is something that to me is abundantly clear, is that there is an alliance here between the anti-ink folks
And
as
the
well as the establishment to keep what we've described coming, to say,
Exactly.
give up, just give up. You can't change anything. This is just how it goes. Your community's ending. It's over. It's normal. It's natural. Just let it go while we continue to pump money and get the secret out. Don't take any steps for local control. And both the anti-ink folks buy into that, and the establishment loves it because, great, we get to continue. Let's do a dozen more cities next year, right? They continue, like you said, to use that cash cow in order to get what they want with very little oversight. And they both agree, the anti-ink and the establishment, that this status quo of growth after growth after growth with no barriers to entry is what they both want.
What do you think if the Patriots back in 1776 did that with England?
They say, hey, well, they're the empire.
They
This is
can't
how
do
it
anything
goes.
about it.
Yep.
Let's have tea today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that American ethic of, if we don't like something or what's being done to our community, stand up and defend it, right? Is exactly what we're doing in a political sense, of having a vote to say, hey, we understand things have changed in Navarre.
Yep.
Let's take some steps and learn
And
from
preserve
other
it.
folks, from Gulf Breeze and Fort Myers and a dozen other cities. Let's take some steps to help preserve what we love, right?
That's right.
That's it. So, all right, let's get to a couple comments here, and then we'll close out, because we've had a few. So, Robert says, "Whoa, who's that silver-haired tuna man?" We'll see if he agrees with me about the Sean Connery look. That's great. Tom's on here, and he was talking about we're talking about the water system. He says, clean up the waste and follow the rules. Then we can talk about funding. He's getting after, a lot of that waste that's being pumped into the sound now from the beach. And I think they've got the plan, right? And I think there's moving along it. The trouble is, I want to see them do that funding responsibly, because it's going to be years in the making doing this project.
Sure.
And they need to have that ethic. So I hear you, Tom. Kind of what I've been saying is the system's on its way. I mean, you've got an international criminal out. That's a good thing. Okay, that's great. They did a forensic audit. That's a great thing. You're seeing some more transparency. Now let's see them start to model some of these examples I've given, start to use other grant sources and become efficient, not just ethical, but efficient. So it's a slightly different conversation, but I think the funding is part of that. Anything you want to add to that one, Chuck?
Well, Tom's got a good comment. I wish that Navarre or the county had started a long time ago with the RIB system. It's something that we've been talking about for years, and it's never gotten to this point yet. Signing contracts, dedicating money, and all that. I'm just hoping we don't have a budget crunch like we did back in 2008, 2009, where the nation goes really, really down, and all these projects are being canceled, because they'll cancel this project very quickly, because they'll just do what they got.
Sure.
And it doesn't correct anything if they do what they got. It's still going to go into the sound, and the sound gets worse and worse every day by day. So
Robert was talking about the North End water system that they're looking at building, and saying, from what his perspective, North County doesn't want it. State government override of local desires, and would cost another mill.
Well, people got to stand up. They got to call their representative, call Rudman, send a message to Joel Rudman to say, hey, we don't agree with this. We don't need to have it consolidated. We would like to stay like it is, and let them know their feelings.
Well, let them have a vote. You know, like
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
American way. Is have
exactly.
a vote. If we disagree and we can't
Exactly.
get past it, vote.
Right.
So I would love it if they had a North End vote on do you want a consolidated water system, right? Same as I would love to see another vote on incorporation because
Yeah.
it's been 10 years.
Yep.
Tom gave us some kudos. He said, "Good job, guys, loved it." And he also said the old sign was still here when we moved in 2018. Yeah, it's at the park. It's at the park. I think you can walk around. It's not, you can't see it from the highway, but if you park and you get out, you can see the old sign, and that's great. But what I want to see is what it embodied. And I talked about that a little bit. Is I want to see, Navarre's culture
Yeah.
protected, and to me, that means you start.
Best kept.
Yeah, you start saying, okay, who am I going to tell this secret to, and how do I protect it from getting out so that, not everybody knows about it all the time and is rushing for it. So anyway, that's been a great show. Thank you so much, Chuck, for being here. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so
Appreciate
let
it.
us know as you watch this show. If you're not watching it live, send us some comments, preservenavarre@gmail.com. Take a look at our website at preservenavarre.com, as well as that redevelopment.net. I think that's a great site for people to go to. If you've got questions, thoughts, if there's stuff you want us to cover, let us know. I will definitely be having you on again pretty soon here, Chuck, for
Well,
another show.
I hope
There's
so.
a lot more to talk about, but this
Yeah.
was great. Y'all have a great night, and we'll see you around Navarre.
Thank you very much.